Welcome to the People by People podcast with me, your host, Laura Sutherland. This is the final episode of the People by People podcast in 2020, which has been a year of highs, lows, and everything in between. Firstly, wanted to start off by saying thank you. Thank you so much for tuning into all of the episodes this year on the show. I do try and bring a slightly different conversation to public relations. I don't always try and address the current issues or the hot topics because other people already do that and they do it very well. What I like to tap into is the personalities that we have within the industry, within their specialisms, and also what they're going through in their real lives. And I think it only goes to show that what I always say, people are turning into brands, brands are turning into people. It's the same for us as well as practitioners. So how has your year been? I can imagine that for some of you it has been super, super busy, super stressful. I think for everyone it's probably been stressful. I know that some people have lost jobs. I know that some people have lost clients and lost a lot of work and are struggling through. But I think the most important thing that I have learned is that we have a really resilient community in public relations, and we definitely have rallied around each other to help each other. And I think that is an amazing thing for an industry to have. I know that a lot of us are involved through the CIPR or the PRCA, and that's how we've either got to know each other, to work with each other, etc. And I think that it's important that those organisations continue to support its members. But equally, I think it's really important that we continue as a community and as individuals to keep our connections, our communities close, keep them talking and reassure them that, people are there to help, to support, etc. And one of the things about this year for me certainly was in March when obviously lockdown was announced and hit and everyone had to move to working from home. I quickly realised that, a lot of people were struggling with that and they were feeling disconnected and were kind of scrabbling about for not support necessarily, but just like someone to be there, to know somebody was there. So that's why I started PR's Unite, because it really gave an opportunity to bring everyone together. I kind of felt like our industry was really faceless at that point in time. People were sticking out videos and things like that, but there was no real live interaction. So because I've been using Zoom for years, I knew the capabilities of it, and I'd already started to think about moving PR Fest onto a virtual platform in the summer, because I kind of knew at that point that the chances of having a face-to-face event were slim to none. But to still have that human interaction was really, really important. So I started the weekly PR's Unite Hangout, and the first week we had something like 56 people in it. There was 100 people had signed up, 56 people turned up, and the conversations just started to become really encouraging. People were sharing stories of what they were going through in their own countries, because it was a global thing. There were people from America, people from across Europe, there were people from Canada, across the UK, Ireland, not quite as far as Russia or Australia, but certainly there was a really good mix of people, and from different industries and having different experiences as well. So I think that really kind of set the sort of bar for the expectations of what people might need throughout having to work from home and feeling lonely and isolated. It's all very well having your team, as we know, but at the same time, it's not the same as being in an office with them, around them, etc. So that was kind of PR's Unite. But I think for me, for this year, I really started to think about my work-life balance, because, and I said it every year probably, it's always on my CPD and my professional, my personal sort of development goals, is to kind of have that work-life balance, and to make sure that I'm still achieving stuff at work, but I'm still enjoying life. And this year, I think that, lockdown for me was not too difficult because I work from home anyway. I've got a great garden. I've got a lot of green space around where we live. I take the dog to the park every day. And I get to socialise with other human beings, socially distanced, obviously. But I still get to see people and speak to them and hear different stories, and it's a change of scenery and a change of conversation, which is great. Um, don't really find that on social channels. I really get that because it's the same people with the same conversations, talking about the same things, and yeah, it just gets a bit sort of monotonous. And I think that's really made me wise to thinking about more about my social channels as well. I think during lockdown, my sort of face-to-face time with humans, being at the park with the dog and having that sort of outdoor space has been really awesome. But also, I suppose for a long, long time, I have, in fact, one of my life goals before I was 30 was to open my own restaurant. I don't know if many of you know, but I studied hospitality and trained in hospitality before I worked in public relations, and it's definitely something that will never leave me. And I've always loved food, and for delighting my guests, as we've always said, make sure they've got a special experience and making happy memories. Um, and I think that with lockdown, I've had the opportunity because my gym has been closed. I've not been going there 4 times a week. I've been doing my dog walks and stuff, but we've only been out at limited times. Shops, I try and get the shopping delivered to the house. So my time has actually been maximised, and it's given me time to think about my business. So for Aura PR, for PR Fest, it's also given me time to think about my passions and what I love. And one of the things that I really love is cooking. And every Christmas, I make a Christmas cake for my family and for the other family, so my in laws. I also make Christmas chutney. And this year I thought to myself, I've had this idea about making pickles, and I've had the sort of idea of my USP and all the rest of it, and I started to kind of think through the ideas and stuff and the timing. And when it came to my 40th birthday in September, one of my best chums who took me away for a couple of days said to me, "Why don't you just do it?" And I was kind of like, "Well, I think I will just do it, but I think for me it has to be the right time in my brain. I have to be in the right mindset." Anyway, this is completely going off the course of conversation of public relations, but I do have a point. But yeah, so came up, I think, September time. I was already producing like trial recipes and trial runs of spices and mixes and brines, trying different vinegars, thinking about natural ingredients, so proper like Himalayan sea salt. Or there's a company that I love, the East Neuk Salt Company, who actually makes sea salt in the East Neuk of Fife. So kind of thinking about proper like homegrown, wholesome, environmentally friendly from a sustainable point of view. So local growers using all the vegetables, even the sort of wonky misshapen ones. And thereborn was wonky pickles. So I started off basically by registering the business, speaking to environmental health about producing from my house, filling in forms, and Christmas chutney season was upon us, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to do it. So started doing some research on packaging and the jars and stuff like that. Sourced some really good suppliers, but I had a couple of questions, so I went onto a Facebook group and said, and there's where the only help this year that Facebook has been to me has been has been my time of need in wonky land. And I asked a question about process and packaging, and said, "Oh, by the way, I've made making some chutney if anyone's interested for Christmas presents, but it's only for my local area." And oh my goodness, what a response. Orders were coming in, so I quickly had to get an order form together. I had to get a website together. I'd already started to think about the brand, but it was really quickly like, oh my goodness, I need to get this done now. So I think from an entrepreneurial perspective, I've learned that when there's the demand, you just sometimes have to go with it. You cannot perfect everything. So whilst my recipe is 100% perfected, because that's my chutney recipe for the last 10 years or something, um, and I will never share the exact ingredients. Well, I will share the exact ingredients, but not the quantities. Yeah, so I think, yeah, that's been a sort of passion project come to life, a wee side hustle, which has turned into actually something that's kept me so positive and cheery and had a completely different focus. And actually something that will definitely grow into a bigger business next year, especially because I spent that time looking at the recipes and stuff for the other pickles. So yeah, interesting times. Have you found any sort of new projects, or I know that people are trying to learn new languages and stuff like that, but it was just something that just sort of came to you and you just went and did it. I'd be interested to hear that. I'll put the information for the pickles and chutney in the show notes, but it's wonkypickles.com, and you can follow at wonkypickles on Instagram as well. I just thought Instagram would be the best place to be, very visual. So yeah, so it's been an interesting time, and whilst all that was going on, I was doing a lot of, always my voluntary work for CIPR, PRCA. I'm the chair in Scotland, and we basically decided that we wanted to ramp up what we were doing in a virtual capacity. So I think we were probably one of the first groups to start doing virtual events. We invited our members to come and hang out and chat with us. We invited them to come and do some learning opportunities. So we set up some really good stuff once a month. And we really just kept being there for them and being a sort of a place for them to ask questions, and a resource obviously that could help them through business, through helping their teams, helping themselves, etc. So that kept busy as well, and also my work with the CIPR. I'm the chair of the Fellows Forum, but I also, as part of that, developed a free mentoring program for the CIPR, which launched in April, which is brilliant because it's so needed. Um, and when it launched, there were, I think, something like 56 fellows who had volunteered to be mentors to mentees, and the uptake was fantastic. And we're just going through a bit of a review process at the moment. And there's a new scheme which has been launched specifically for chartered practitioners to work with students and graduates. So that's been extended further, which is also great because the next generation are really going to need our help now and in the future as jobs dry up and as things start to change around what's happened this year, but also because of Brexit as well. One of the things that I kind of developed as I was going along was my ideas and thinking about how I wanted to help, as I call it, private clients. So that's kind of like senior PR directors, owners of agencies, and really working with them, not in a net capacity because that's probably more official, but certainly from a consulting and a slightly longer term view than a sort of one-off consultation or a one-off project. I launched a development and mentoring program for my private clients, which basically is helping them professional development and personal development combined. And it's looking at plans, it's looking at like structures, processes, it's looking at trends, it's looking at tools. And it's really, I suppose, just tapping into my 20 years experience, but probably my most 10 years recent experience around data, around like business function, around tapping into like sort of the sort of tech side of things, and also using my common sense and experience just from having worked with so many different amazing clients and brands over the years, and applying that to helping some small businesses, some small agencies, and also practitioners themselves. So that's gone really well, and the first day I launched it, I had 4 people sign up, and I've just opened again for February. So if you're interested in in signing up or want more information, head to aura-pr.com to the mentor page, which is quite clearly marked, and you can find out information there. And be happy to chat to anyone about it initially before they make a decision as well. And also, obviously, I've got my client work on. It's been a busy year trying to help clients judge where markets are going, where customers are spending money, what products are being developed, and really, as you know, the whole thing that I started in April and launched at the end of April was rethink, re-engage, and reignite, and that was about rethinking businesses because everything had changed. We couldn't rely on people to be the same, on buying behaviours to be the same. And so that was one of the big things that I started working with clients really early on. Some of it was maybe too early on for some clients, and maybe for midsummer was a good time for them, but certainly there was those that embraced that sort of early on thinking. It gave them an advantage over their competitors, and it certainly helped when lockdown was lifted that we were able to reignite out and really capture the market as it was there, and because we'd prepared for it essentially. So that was brilliant. So that was a lot of kind of changing things to be online, to make things more accessible, to map out more user journeys, to do, make more stakeholder research and make that applicable in the strategy as well. So yeah, it's been a busy year, and I'm planning on finishing on the 18th of December. I'm going to take, a good sort of 3 or 4 weeks off and chill out and spend some time with my bubble, and yeah, dream about my pickles and start developing plans from there. I've already started thinking about collaborations, and I've already invested in new jars, and I've got some great equipment to help me make quicker, cleaner, and more effective in that as well. So yeah, it's an exciting time, and I'm excited for 2021 because I certainly lost out big time in 2020 with the plans for my 40th and all the parties that were going to be planned and everything, all the events for work and business. So yeah, but huge thank you to my clients for still investing in public relations, still wanting to work with me and believing in my thinking and what I contribute to their businesses. And a huge thank you to you guys for listening to the podcast. It's been a real pleasure to put together, basically because sometimes we just don't talk about the plain stuff that we need to be talking about, and I find it really I find it really sometimes like same when I hear this, sort of industry podcast, not just our industry, but just industry in general, talking about the same stuff with the same people. And it's actually just really nice to have fresh voices. So for next year, I've already, in fact, and shortly, I'm going to be recording my first podcast for 2021. It's going to be with Simon Francis, and we are talking about a whole load of let's call it social impact, sustainable climate type stuff. So that's going to be really important to listen into, as COP26 is being held in Glasgow next November, and I'm involved in some stuff there, so more to be chatted about that soon. But if you think that you have a story, a conversation, something you want to talk about, then please do not hesitate to get in contact. There's been a huge variety of people on the show this year, like so many amazing people. You know the work that I've been doing in diversity and inclusion as well, and I think it's super important that we continue that conversation, but also the people that are involved in that in my podcast are from a diverse background, diverse skills, diverse experience, diverse thinking. And so, yeah, please do get in touch. Again, I'll put some information in the show notes about how to get in touch with me. But most of you will know that I'm on Twitter, email, etc. anyway. But all that leaves me to say is thank you so much for downloading, for subscribing, and everything this year. It's been an absolute delight. It's been a year and a half I've been running the podcast, and I've really, really enjoyed it. It's another way of me to think out loud, and I sometimes do these solo podcasts, which I really enjoy actually. because I can then just sort of talk about the things I want to talk about and get it off my chest and then see what you think. Um, but for now, I do wish you a very Merry Christmas when it comes, and a hugely healthy, prosperous New Year when it comes to. I think that we're all relieved to see a vaccine or two being developed and approved, and I'm hoping that that means that we can move forward with getting on with our lives, and enjoying them as well. So thank you very much again for tuning in, and I will speak to you very soon.